gold to back currencies, fund security independently, or resist IMF dependency, the financial ripple effect will be global. That's what they fear. When Western governments lose control over how and where African gold flows, they lose a tool of leverage.
Gaddafi gave me his resignation letter. These were the chilling words of former US congressman called "Well Done." But the US don't want Gaddafi to step down. They don't want peace. They want him back. They wanted Libya's oil. And they wanted control of his sovereign wealth fund. A fund meant to liberate Africa, not line the pockets of the West. Gaddafi's vision was dangerous. Dangerous to the global elite. A united Africa, backed by gold, free from colonial strings. That vision was shared by another man, Thomas Sankara, the fiery revolutionary of Burkina Faso, young, bold, unshakable. But what happened? Silenced, betrayed, and died. And now history dares to repeat itself. Ibrahim Traoré, Burkina Faso's new lion-hearted leader, is walking that same path, talking sovereignty, talking unity, talking liberation, and just like before, the system is watching, plotting, looking for a way to silence him. So the question is, how long before another African voice is sniffed out in the name of democracy? How long before the empire strikes again? Just listen to US Congressman for his confession. We will come back to this. Thank you.
And I met him 3 times. I took Biden on my second trip to Libya, by the way. He went with me when I spoke to the whole country. At every meeting I had with Gaddafi, he wanted 2 things. He wanted to unite the African continent into a group of nations economically, like the European economy. He wanted to base it on the gold standard. And the U.S. and Europe didn't want that. And the other thing is they wanted control of his oil, and they wanted control of his sovereign wealth. So Gaddafi had to go. That's outrageous, and it's wrong.
Wow. Now, did you listen to this confession from a former US congressman? He admitted it. Gaddafi wanted peace, but peace wasn't profitable. Oil was, power was, control was, but it doesn't stop there. Listen again to the African commander blaming Ibrahim Traoré for using his country's gold, not for weapons, not for Western banks, but to feed his people, build schools, empower farmers, protect his land, and that is a problem. What does that tell you? It tells you that a free-thinking African leader is a threat, not because he is dangerous to his people, but because is dangerous to the system, a system that has thrived on destabilizing Africa, looting Africa, and silencing every leader bold enough to say Africa must rise on its own terms. From Lumumba to Sankara, from Gaddafi to Ibrahim, and one thing remains clear. When an African leader chooses his people over profit, he is marked. But this time, will the people stay silent? Listen again.
I can imagine a situation, though, in which the ruling elite of a country is receiving gratuities on the side that in order to the benefit of the strongman leader. and not to the populace of the country. Does that sort of corruption and bribery go on with regard to the Belt and Road?
Absolutely, Chairman. I see this, and I don't mind calling them out, but Captain Traoré and Burkina Faso, as they know that both, whether it's their gold reserves, that is all those proceeds are just in exchange to protect the junta regime. There's a number of examples across, even in Sudan.
When a U.S. general goes on record accusing an African leader of using gold to protect himself, you know something big is happening. In a statement to the U.S. Senate, General Michael Langley, commander of AFRICOM, claimed Burkina Faso's gold reserves are being used not for the people, but to secure the leadership of Captain Ibrahim Traoré. But here's the question we all should be asking. Isn't that gold Burkina Faso's in the first place? In today's video, we'll expose the agenda behind this statement, highlight the power shift happening across Africa, and explain why the world is watching Burkina Faso more closely than ever before. In Burkina Faso, gold is no longer just a mineral buried deep within the earth. It is becoming a tool, a catalyst, a symbol of transformation. Each coin invested in agriculture brings more harvests. Each ounce that funds a hospital saves more lives. Each nugget that strengthens security guards the hope of tomorrow. Burkina Faso is proving that even in a world of uncertainty, a country can rise when it chooses to invest in its people, its land, and its future. This is more than development. This is the story of a nation reclaiming its destiny, 1 gram of gold at a time.
But ask yourself this: why is the US accusing Ibrahim Traoré now? Why now, when he is doing exactly what a leader is supposed to do? He's not selling out. He's not bowing down. He's using Burkina Faso's gold to build a future, not for foreign investors, but for his people. So why is that a threat? Maybe because a strong, independent Africa is the one thing that fears most. Maybe because leaders like Ibrahim are waking up a new generation, unapologetic, uncolonized, and unafraid. And maybe that is why the smear campaign have started. So before they rewrite the story again, before they paint another patriot as a villain, stay alert, stay informed, stay connected. Subscribe to this channel if you believe African stories should be told by Africans, uncensored, unfiltered, unbought. Drop your thoughts in the comments. Share this message, let the world know we see through their lies. Listen to Ibrahim.
We asked ourselves lots of questions, and today we decided to put a whole chain together. You follow with fishing that we want to exploit the gold ourselves. And today we are laying the first stone of the refinery. It will no longer be a question of us taking our gold outside to be refined. We refine it on site. We know what the real content of the raw gold that comes out is. That is very important. And also it is necessary that through SONASP, we are in the process of inviting local gold miners to bring the gold back inside, because SONASP is the structure which will buy back the gold, and that we can refine here. A lot of gold leaves Burkina fraudulently, and which also contributes to fueling terrorism. So we invite gold miners, whether collectors or others, to bring the gold back to the central portion, and at the same time also invite SONASP to increase the number of counters to be able to collect the gold. And in addition to this refinery, I hope that in the coming days, we have another bigger project that is underway, and that is waste treatment. A factory which was designed by Burkinabe engineers, which is currently in the test phase, and we hope that in the following hours, they will tell us that the test is conclusive, and that therefore makes a complete chain to be able to valorize our gold. Burkina Faso may be landlocked, but it is rich in what the world wants: gold. The country is one of the top producers in Africa, with reserves worth billions. For decades, these riches flowed out of the country in raw form, enriching corporations in Canada, France, and beyond. The people remained poor. Infrastructure collapsed. Security became a nightmare. So when a leader says, "Enough. We will process our minerals here. We will use our gold to defend ourselves," it sends shockwaves through the corridors of foreign power. And let's be clear, Burkina Faso's move is more than economic policy. It's a direct challenge to the status quo of foreign exploitation dressed as development. General Langley's statement wasn't just an observation, it was a message. By framing Traoré's use of gold as self-serving, Langley implied corruption, without evidence, without proof. But here's what's hypocritical. AFRICOM exists precisely to project American military power on the African continent. It supports leaders who serve US interests. So when a leader emerges who doesn't need them, who doesn't bow, he's labeled a threat. The statement also reflected an old colonial mindset, that Africa's resources must serve Western-approved purposes. When Africans decide how to use their own gold, it's suddenly a problem? That's not security concern. That's control panic. The framing of Traoré's defense efforts as protecting the elite ignores that his leadership was born out of popular demand. He didn't install himself with US money. He rose through the army, supported by the youth.
Et à bobo du lasso.
The global gold market is tightly controlled. Western economies hedge currency, insure banks, and back investments with it. So when Africa starts saying, "We'll refine and keep our gold here," you're not just disrupting trade, you're challenging the monetary order. This isn't just about Burkina Faso. It's about sovereignty over value. If African nations begin using gold to back currencies, fund security independently, or resist IMF dependency, the financial ripple effect will be global. That's what they fear. When Western governments lose control over how and where African gold flows, they lose a tool of leverage. This fear manifests as diplomatic pressure, economic threats, and yes, military rhetoric like Langley's. Resource nationalism isn't a dirty word, it's a right. Every country has the right to control what lies beneath its soil. But when African leaders attempt it, they're called dictators, nationalists, or threats. It's the oldest game in the book, and it's one of the main reasons leaders like Patrice Lumumba, Muammar Gaddafi, and Thomas Sankara were eliminated or overthrown. Traoré's crime is not tyranny, it's independence. He is defying a decades-long tradition where African wealth props up foreign economies. By rejecting that model, he invites both admiration from Pan-Africanists and opposition from international stakeholders.